Welcome, beautiful thinkers. So there's no interview today, but instead is an account and interpretation of the events of June 4th, 2020 here in Guadalajara. What happened a month after the murder of Giovanni López, a construction worker, and the protests which ensued, also partly inspired by the death of George Floyd in the United States. People were inspired to seek justice, I believe. So we'll get into that in a moment. Now, please go ahead and subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or other podcasting platforms. I normally use Podcast Addict. It's a free app on Android. You can use it to listen and subscribe to podcasts. Pretty handy. Pretty cool that we have access to all of this information and these interesting conversations. I was listening to the work, The Portal, by Eric Weinstein. It's quite fascinating to hear the words, the conversation of such an educated man. We all have access to this, and people just start recording and having conversations and publishing them out to the world. So how amazing is it that we have access to all this information and this technology? It's pretty cool. Please, if you enjoy this episode, go ahead and share it around with your friends. The message is about our common humanity. Let's get into it.
This is a beautiful thought.
Welcome to A Beautiful Thought. Something happened to me yesterday. A lot of stuff happened yesterday. Today is the 5th of June. I'm in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. What happened yesterday? I saw Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media. I saw him post this video talking about a man named Giovanni López, who was arrested in recent days in the town of Ixtlahuacán de los Membrillos here in Jalisco. It's nearly an hour away from Guadalajara, near Lake Chapala. And this man was arrested by the police while he was out with his family, and he was later hospitalized and died, apparently because of injuries sustained from a beating and also a gunshot wound to the foot. Now, I know, all right, this podcast is meant to be about positive thinking or seeing the bright side of things. That doesn't mean I'm just going to ignore the reality of what's going on. And I think this is an important story to tell. I saw Josh's video. I asked my girlfriend about what was going on in Ixtlahuacán, and she told me actually there are protests going on right now near the municipal palace. And I was like, oh. I grabbed my camera. I must have paused, hesitated for a second. She's like, don't go, stay safe. And I'm like, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. I think it was the right decision. So I head on down with my camera, and I'm on there on Avenida Juarez, and I notice everybody's heading west, almost everybody. And I'm there walking east towards the center of what's going on here. And somebody up ahead near the Plaza Universidad, somebody throws a garbage bin into a window, and there's glass everywhere, and people are running. Maybe there's some loud sounds. Somebody's setting off flares or fireworks or something. I don't know exactly what. And get in there, and the protesters are sitting in the middle of the avenue, and some of them have their hands up. Some of them are holding signs pleading for justice for Giovanni López. And the police get closer and closer, and they're moving in. They're about 3 deep and maybe 12 across. And they have these riot shields at the front. And I'm going around taking photos. I posted a lot of them on Twitter. I'll leave the link on the post on the website on beautifulpodcast.com. Yeah, people are protesting, and they're saying this chant over and over. Giovanni died, and it was the state that killed him. And they're probably right. I kind of knew. I had this feeling. It's kind of this naive, innocent perspective of the world that I have. I thought maybe with the power of my words, I have the opportunity to calm this situation down a little. And when I saw the police advancing, I started saying, they are human beings. And likewise, I had the opportunity to say that to some people on the other side, to remind the protesters that the police are human beings. Of course, police in Mexico get a bad rap, much of it deserved. Known as some of the most corrupt police in the world. Some people even say Mexico without corruption is like a quesadilla without cheese. Doesn't exist. It wouldn't be right in some way, even unless you're from Mexico City, right? But the protesters are there, and in some moment I started calling out, like at the top of my voice, that nobody is harmed today, that nobody dies today. And I don't remember the exact order of events. I didn't get a good look at the time. I saw a video later. Some of the police went through on motorcycles, and I guess their idea was to ride through the crowd and disperse it a little bit. Which is kind of an aggressive move, right? And what happened, the policeman got off his motorcycle and gave some stern words to people, I guess. Got back on his motorcycle. Somebody poured some flammable material down his back and lit it. And that guy was just lit right up, and he was rolling on the ground behind the police barrier, or behind the group of police. And apparently he survived first and second degree burns. Pretty nasty. I don't think he really deserved that. I talked to one of the policemen, and it was interesting because there was a young girl, maybe 12, 14 years old, talking to this policeman. He looked like the most approachable guy. He's on the back of the line, the back right of the line, behind two other policemen with their riot shields. And this young girl is asking him some questions. And when she walks away, I walk up and say, hey, don't you think it would be possible to ask your commander to talk with these protesters and resolve this in a peaceful way? And it's like, I don't know. Or he kind of shrugs it off or something. It doesn't give me a full response. And I'm like, okay, I think I see what's going on. It's like you're a kind of pawn, you're a cog in this machine, and you can't speak to me. And I start walking off, and he says, what's your name? And I introduce myself, and he introduces himself. His name is Martin. And I chatted to him. And I said, look, I don't want anybody to get hurt today. He said, it always happens like this. It happens so often in Mexico. People go out to the streets and they try to get their voice heard. And then what he said next, I'm still not sure if I heard him correctly. I think what he said is, y siempre tiene la razón. They are always right. But his position is they have to go out to the streets and calm people down in one way or another. The use of tear gas and stuff, from my perspective, that's not a way of calming people down. So, not sure I agree with his methods, but I can empathize with his perspective there about trying to calm things down. So, the crowd started to shift, and I said, well, I hope you have a good day. I hope you stay safe. And he said, thank you. And a few of the other police turned to me and said, hey, man, thanks, or something like that. They gave me some little words of support. Now, it's a complex thing. It's really complex. One thing is with López, all right, the story that the media is running is that this guy was arrested because he wasn't wearing a mask. In these coronavirus times, it's mandatory, at least to the letter of the law, to wear a face mask in Jalisco. But that's not really the reality. I mean, what normally happens is people walk around the streets and these days, the 5th of June, 4th of June, about half the people in Guadalajara are walking around without face masks. That's pretty normal. My girlfriend said to me what normally happens when somebody is with their family, the police won't approach them. Because, all right, they're cops, but they're Mexicans first. And family is important. It's that important, and this is something so deeply embedded in Mexican culture. If you have a brother or a sister who is a citizen of Mexico, not just a child or a father or mother, a brother or sister is a Mexican citizen, that makes you eligible for Mexican citizenship. So family is that important. And a lot of the time the police will respect that. So what really happened? I don't pretend to know what the motivations were in arresting this guy, but it's likely that there was more to it than what was portrayed in the media. Now, I remember I was at a family gathering of a friend of mine for New Year's Eve a few years ago. And these are family of close friends, so a lot of them I have on Facebook. And I'm going to get some ponche or something. And one of these guys is a cop near Mexico City. And he says to me, "Hey, I like the stuff you post on Facebook." I said, "Really? What stuff?" He's like, "Yeah, stuff about how the government should be abolished." You're right. So this public servant is telling me, in mild terms, we don't need the government. Forget the government. I'm like, all right, that's pretty interesting. And these are also guys, some of these guys, these cops, I met one of them after 5 minutes. And this is a guy who he's probably seen a lot of stuff. He's probably, as a part of his job, had to go into narco dens, and the way he described it, like bullets flying past him left and right, and it's a miracle that he didn't get killed several times over. After 5 minutes of meeting him, he says to me, "Listen, you ever need a place to stay? Look me up." And a lot of people, of course, in Mexico, they say that's your house, meaning you're always welcome here. Some people just say it to be polite. It's just what expected. But in this case, I could tell the weight of his words. I could tell it's real. Things are pretty complex, and it's very strange for me to try to, well, I'm always trying to stand up for the little guy. And it's really weird. I find myself in this position where people are trying to dehumanize police, and I'm the person who feels like it's good to defend them. But this is true. I mean, these police dressed in riot gear, they're dressed by their superiors, and it's a psychological thing. I don't know who exactly comes up with this, but they are dressed to not appear human. They are dressed in a way to disguise their humanity. Those protesters yesterday that were there calling out assholes, just chanting at them, or they're calling out murderers, murderers. Just imagine for a second if you're in those shoes, signed up for that job. It's a hard job. It's a job that probably puts you in a position where you are doing things that you don't want to do. And somebody is calling you a murderer. Well, that hurts. And it's true. I mean, police should be more responsible, and the system should be reformed or abolished. Or there should be a better system where people don't have to be corrupt. Even so, they're human beings. They really are. And I could see their humanity just talking to them. They are real. They are human. And they will respond to your humanity. When you show them your humanity, they will respond. Because that's what humans do. My friend Luis Fernando likes to tell a story about his father. His father was a bureaucrat or a public servant in Mexico City, and he had this unusual event. Well, for him it was unusual at the time, working in this public department, and some contractors came in and said, listen, here's how it's going to be. We've been contracted to refurbish or replace all of the mufflers in the fleet of this organization. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is take them out, wash them, paint them, and put them back. And you are going to get a share of the money that we save. And Luis's father was just appalled. He couldn't believe it. Maybe the scales fell from his eyes, I suppose. In that moment, he realized how corrupt things were. And he said, no, I will not stand for this. And he quit that job. And he went into the private sector and, of course, became an inspiration for Luis Fernando, becoming the inspiration for another great life. Now, the reason this story is so impressive is because this man showed so much integrity, and he had to move past the risk that he was going to take, the risk that maybe he won't be able to feed his family, that he won't know where the next check is coming from, that he doesn't even know necessarily how to start a business, moving to so much uncertainty. And that is real integrity. The point is, the reason that story is so impressive is because most people can't do that, or most people don't have the courage to do that. And it's not easy to do that. It's really not easy what Luis's father did. So when somebody is in a position, a bad job, that maybe they don't even want, but they want to do because they want to feed their family, and they don't know what else to do because of their ignorance or lack of courage or whatever it is, or just not fully understanding that they have other options. Maybe some kind of abusive relationship with their employer. I don't know what. We're all human. We're all fallible. We all have flaws. So I don't think we need to stop feeling empathy for people just because they wear jackboots. It's true, jackboots diminish the humanity of others and they diminish the humanity of the wearers. We can see the humanity despite that. We can look for that spark of realness in the eyes, in the minds, and the hearts of even those who try to hide it. I still remember that story about Emperor Norton that I've told before. There were two gangs, one Asian gang and perhaps a Chinese gang in San Francisco, and another gang on the other side, some kind of turf war or something, some kind of riot. Emperor Norton, some might call him crazy. He assessed the situation, and in his full imperial regalia, he moved between the crowds, between these two warring groups, and he knelt and he said the Lord's Prayer. The crowd was so moved, either by the respect for the Emperor of the United States or by the weight, the force of this man's faith. We can still show our humanity, show our faith, our love, and it will resonate. Thank you for listening. Take care and have a good time. That's the important thing.
A beautiful thought.
Thanks for listening. So in the coming weeks, I got a few more interviews. I got an interview scheduled with Sterling Lujan to tell the second part of his story, talking about waiting to be sentenced and the risk of being charged with some serious crimes related to the drugs, the ecstasy that he was distributing to his friends with the noble goal of trying to transform people, give people a quantum personality shift, the challenge that arose because of that. And of course, the wisdom, the most important thing, the hero's elixir that comes forth when you emerge from the cave after defeating the dragon. So we'll get into that. I've also got an interview with my friend Francisco Valencia talking about his journey to discover veganism and decide to have more empathy in his life, have empathy for pets and other animals, and also to better express his empathy for humans as well. I hope to interview also another friend, Tom, talking about the time he stole without caring, without trying to, undeliberately, accidentally stole a yacht in Venezuela and nearly got caught by the Coast Guard. So hopefully that interview will come up in the next few weeks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing this around. Thanks for subscribing on Spotify so you can keep listening even more and more and enjoying and filling your life with positivity as long as this helps you and is beneficial to you. And maybe you will even transcend and become a delightful, glorious being of ever-loving light. And yeah, let's do that. Have a great day.
Love.